If you are watching these photography videos, there is a high chance that sooner or later you are going to buy a new camera. And as we all know, photography is not exactly a cheap hobby. Maybe it is going to be your first more expensive camera or just the next one in line. You might have an idea about specifications, brand and lenses. However, there are still many pitfalls you should watch out for before you make your final decision. Here are 5 kinds of cameras you should definitely avoid. If you like these videos, please consider subscribing and sharing with your friends. It really helps to produce more videos like this one. And if you really want to get notified, use the bell icon. It was Chase Jarvis who said, "The best camera is the one you have with you." It was then used by many, including Steve Jobs, while promoting the portability of the iPhone. And when you think about it, it actually makes perfect sense. Whether you buy a camera for work or just for amusement, it is an investment that pays off for you by you actually using the camera. That is why the first kind of camera you should avoid is one that you won't often take with you. Maybe you want to buy a big DSLR with a huge telephoto lens or two. Think carefully. Are you really going to take your gear outside that often to be able to justify your purchase? Maybe none of this is the case for you, but it is a consideration worth making before it is too late. I know because I have been there. I remember my walks with my Leica M240, and even though many people will tell you the camera is overpriced, I loved what it did for me and how I felt with it, and I still do. But traveling through developing countries or less safe areas, I often felt very uncomfortable carrying around a camera that was this expensive. Later with kids and packing a lot of stuff for them, I'm just happy to slip my Ricoh GR in my pocket and not worry about it. This kind of example brings me to the second type of gear you should avoid buying, and it is the one with features you think you will need over the ones you will really need. Let me explain. With camera companies releasing new cameras every year, it can be tempting to reach for the latest and greatest, right? But when you think about what you are really going to do with the camera, you might realize that you not only don't need to buy the latest tech, but it will also save you a lot of money you can use later to actually get better at photography. I know it can be tempting to get the latest camera with 20 frames per second in continuous autofocus. Well, if you are shooting the Olympics and need to deliver, this is of course an awesome feature to have. But if you are going to shoot landscapes, then not so much. Buying a 1.4 lens can give you awesome bokeh, but when you end up shooting street photography with f8, you don't really need it. It happens to all of us, especially when looking at second-hand camera market. You pick a lens or camera body you want to buy new or, in this example, used, and just when you are ready to pull the trigger, you find a slightly faster lens or slightly newer camera body, and of course the price is a little higher. Just a little bit. However, since you are looking at the gear that costs a bit more, you might as well look at the cameras at that similar price point, right? You find something else that is in similar price range, but you know, it is again a little more expensive. The faster, lighter and newer gear will let you do much more and better, you tell yourself. But then you see another that, again, costs a bit more. And before you know it, you are looking at the gear that is totally out of your budget. You can tell yourself how you can manage to pay for the camera, how you will work overtime or sell your other gear to make it work. But let me tell you, it is not worth it. There is always going to be gear that is a little bit more expensive than you saved up for, but stretching it too far can be a great mistake. It may seem like a good idea at first, but you will thank me later when you actually enjoy your camera free of stress because you need the gear to pay for itself. The internet revolutionized the buying process of new cameras since you can compare all specifications very quickly and easily. You can also find many reviews and opinions of experts, but also users that have already purchased the one you want. However, with all that useful knowledge come as many opinions as you can imagine. And it is fair to say that the more people get their hands on the product, the more information is available to us to make the decision. Research has never been easier than nowadays. The downside is that there is always going to be that one opinion who hates your dream lens or camera you saved up for. And even though you know you should ignore it because it is a nonsense, it still stays in your mind. So you set up your mind on the new Leica Q2 monochrome. You love the design, you love the brand, and you are watching review after review to confirm your thoughts. And there it is. That one guy, or in this case a group of people who think it is a waste of money. Leica is overpriced and overrated and you should buy a Sony or Canon instead, which you really don't want. Somehow those comments are really so persuasive that you start to doubt your decision. That is why the next camera or lens you should not get are the ones someone else tells you to get. Opinions of other people are, just opinions of other people. Only you know what is the best for you and how you're going to use the camera. You probably know this one as it is discussed very often. You are not happy anymore when you look at your photographs. You start to blame your gear, which is old and boring, and the new one you just saw will definitely make you a better photographer. You buy the new gear, but after a while you realize you are at the same spot again. Instead of learning how to actually use the gear you already own, you browse the internet to find new inspiring camera bodies and lenses. Maybe some of your friends suggest you should rent the gear to find out if you really need it, or even sell some you don't use. But that is a nonsense, right? Why would you waste money renting the gear if you already know you are going to buy it? You promise yourself to go out every single day with the new camera, even though you have been sitting home browsing the internet for quite some time. With this one, it will be different. And there it is. The next camera you should avoid buying is the one you buy just because you have the money for it. Gear acquisition syndrome is kind of famous among photographers, and it is not so easy to get rid of. Well, first you have to admit you have the problem to be able to fix it. That being said, we should probably talk about the gear that you actually should get if you decide that your iPhone is not good enough for you anymore. As photographers, we tend to be obsessed with the specifications of new cameras, and that is not a bad thing. Read the reviews, go check out the gear in the store, consider renting it if you are not sure you are going to like it. Don't switch to a different model at the last moment before you make a purchase, and when you eventually decide what you want, do not let few bad reviews get into your head to change your mind. I hope this video helps you with your next purchase. If you have your own advice on gear that should be avoided, please share it in the comments. Thank you for watching, and I will see you next time.